If you've ever wondered whether Dolby Atmos or DTSX delivers better three-dimensional sound, you're about to discover something that might surprise you. These two competing formats have been fighting for dominance in home theaters for years. And the answer to which one sounds better isn't what most people expect. Before we dive into the technical details and real-world listening tests that reveal the truth, hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you want honest audio comparisons with no corporate bias. Comment below and tell me which surround sound system you're using right now and whether you've noticed any difference between Atmos and DTSX content. The battle for three-dimensional audio. To understand this comparison, we need to step back and grasp what these formats are actually trying to accomplish. Traditional surround sound like 5.1 or 7.1 works by assigning sounds to fixed channels. A helicopter sound might be mixed to the rear left surround channel, and it stays there regardless of your speaker setup. This works fine, but it's rigid and limited by how many channels are in the mix. Dolby Atmos and DTSX both represent a fundamental shift in how audio is created and reproduced. They're called object-based audio formats, which sounds complicated, but the concept is actually simple. Instead of locking sounds to specific channels, the audio mixer treats each sound as an independent object in three-dimensional space. That helicopter isn't assigned to a channel, it's positioned as a virtual object at a specific location above and behind you. Your AV receiver or soundbar then calculates how to reproduce that object using whatever speakers you actually have. This is revolutionary, because it means the same soundtrack can adapt to any speaker configuration. Whether you have a basic 5.1.2 setup or a massive 9.1.4 system with height speakers everywhere, the format intelligently uses your available speakers to create the best possible spatial image. It's like the difference between a painting with fixed colors and a photograph that automatically adjusts to any screen size and type. How Dolby Atmos works. Dolby Atmos launched first and quickly became the industry standard. The way it works is clever. Atmos uses what's called a bed layer, which is basically a traditional 7.1 surround track that forms the foundation. On top of that bed, it adds up to 118 audio objects that can be positioned anywhere in three-dimensional space. The total capacity is 128 simultaneous sound elements, though most movie mixes use far fewer in practice. When you play Atmos content, your receiver reads the metadata that describes where each object should be located in space. It then renders those objects to your specific speaker layout in real time. If you have 4 height speakers, it uses all 4 to create precise overhead positioning. If you only have 2 height speakers, it adapts and does the best it can with what's available. This rendering happens dynamically as you watch, which is why Atmos needs processing power in your receiver or soundbar. The genius of Atmos is its flexibility combined with ecosystem support. Dolby worked hard to get Atmos adopted everywhere. It's on streaming services like Netflix, Disney+, Apple TV+, and Amazon Prime. It's on Ultra HD Blu-rays. It's in movie theaters. It's supported by every major AV receiver brand and most soundbars above budget tier. This ubiquity means you'll find vastly more content available in Atmos than any competing format. Atmos also uses sophisticated compression technology to deliver surprisingly good quality at relatively low bit rates. For streaming, Dolby Digital Plus with Atmos can squeeze three-dimensional audio into bandwidths that home internet can handle reliably. For physical media, Dolby True HD with Atmos provides lossless quality. This efficiency is why streaming services embraced Atmos so quickly. How DTSX differs. DTSX came to market as a competitor to Atmos with a different technical philosophy. While Atmos uses that bed plus objects approach, DTSX is fully object-based from the ground up. There's no fixed channel bed at all. Every sound element in a DTSX mix is an object that the renderer places in space based on your speaker configuration. In theory, this gives mixers more freedom and allows the format to adapt even more flexibly to unusual speaker layouts. DTSX also tends to run at higher byte rates than Dolby's formats. DTS has historically prioritized raw data throughput over compression efficiency, arguing that more data means better quality. On Blu-ray discs where bandwidth isn't constrained, DTSX tracks often use higher byte rates than comparable Atmos tracks. Whether this translates to audibly better sound is debatable and depends heavily on the mix quality, but technically there's more audio information in the file. One unique feature of DTSX that Atmos doesn't have is dialogue control. On receivers that support it, you can independently adjust dialogue level up or down without affecting other sounds. If actors are mumbling or music is drowning out speech, you can boost the dialogue track specifically. Atmos relies on your receiver's general dialogue enhancement features rather than having format-level control, so this is a legitimate technical advantage for DTSX. The problem DTSX faces is adoption. Fewer streaming services support it. Fewer movies are mixed in it. Fewer soundbars decode it. It's available on some Ultra HD Blu-rays as an alternative track to Atmos, but it's rarely the primary format. This means even if DTSX is technically superior in some way, you'll have far less content to actually experience it with. The real-world sound quality comparison. So, which one actually sounds better when you sit down and listen? The answer is frustrating for people who want a clear winner. It depends. And often the difference is subtle enough that most people can't reliably tell them apart. Let me explain what professional reviewers and home theater enthusiasts have found through extensive testing. When you compare the same movie that has both Atmos and DTSX tracks on Blu-ray, which some releases do, many listeners report that the DTSX track sounds slightly more dynamic and detailed, particularly in the high frequencies and subtle background sounds. This is likely due to the higher byte rate preserving more audio information. The soundstage can feel a bit more open and natural, with better separation between individual sound elements. However, others find that Atmos tracks sound smoother and more cohesive, with a cinematic polish that DTSX sometimes lacks. Atmos mixes often emphasize big dramatic moments like explosions, flyovers, and action sequences, making them feel more impactful even if they're technically less detailed. The rendering also tends to be slightly more predictable and consistent across different receiver brands, whereas DTSX rendering can vary more depending on your specific hardware. Here's the critical point that undermines the whole comparison. The differences between Atmos and DTSX are absolutely dwarfed by the differences in how individual movies are mixed. A poorly mixed Atmos track will sound worse than a well-mixed DTSX track, and vice versa. The mixing engineer's choices about where to place sounds, how aggressive to make the surround effects, how to balance dialogue against music and effects, these decisions have 10 times more impact on your experience than which format they chose. I've listened to Atmos tracks that are aggressive and demo-worthy, with helicopters flying all around and rain convincingly falling from above. I've also heard Atmos tracks that barely use the height channels and sound almost like traditional surround. The same is true for DTSX. The format is just a tool. What matters is how the mixing engineer uses that tool for each specific movie or show. Room acoustics and equipment reality. There's another factor that makes the Atmos versus DTX debate somewhat academic for most people. Your room acoustics and speaker quality have a far bigger impact on sound quality than codec choice. A properly treated room with good speakers will make either format sound incredible. A bad room with mediocre speakers will make both formats sound disappointing. Room modes, bass nulls, early reflections, and ceiling height all affect how well three-dimensional audio works regardless of format. If your ceiling is too high or vaulted, upfiring Atmos speakers won't work well, but that's equally true for DTSX. If you have hard reflective surfaces creating slap echo, both formats will sound confused and muddy. If your speakers are poorly positioned, neither format can create convincing spatial imaging. On soundbars and compact systems, which is what most people actually use, The difference between Atmos and DTX becomes even harder to detect. These systems have limited driver count and rely heavily on digital signal processing to create spatial illusions. The DSP processing, room correction, and physical limitations of small drivers dominate the sound signature. Whether the source is Atmos or DTSX matters less than whether you've properly calibrated the soundbar and positioned it correctly. In blind listening tests using mid-range equipment in typical living rooms, most people cannot consistently identify which format is playing. When differences are noticed, they're subtle and require careful attention. This isn't to say the formats are identical, but the real-world perceptual difference is much smaller than marketing materials would have you believe. Content availability decides everything. Here's where Dolby Atmos pulls decisively ahead, and why most people should prioritize Atmos support when buying equipment. Content availability overwhelmingly favors Atmos in both the United States and Europe. Netflix has hundreds of titles in Atmos. Disney Plus uses Atmos for most major releases. Apple TV Plus makes Atmos standard. Amazon Prime Video supports it. HBO Max has it. The major streaming platforms you actually use all support Atmos. DTSX on streaming is essentially non-existent. Some high-end music streaming services offer DTSX music tracks, but for movies and TV shows, you're mostly limited to physical media. Even on Ultra HD Blu-ray, Atmos is far more common than DTSX. Many discs include both, giving you the choice, but plenty of releases only have Atmos. This means if you buy a soundbar or receiver that only supports Atmos, you'll have access to virtually all available three-dimensional audio content. If you buy something that only supports DTSX, you'll miss out on the vast majority of Atmos content with no way to experience the spatial audio. From a practical standpoint, Atmos support is essential while DTSX support is a nice bonus. Gaming is another area where Atmos dominates. Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 both support Dolby Atmos for gaming. Many recent AAA titles are mixed in Atmos, creating incredible immersion for gameplay. DTSX has virtually no presence in gaming. If you're a gamer, Atmos support isn't optional, it's necessary to experience modern game audio properly. The technical flexibility factor. One area where DTSX genuinely excels is handling non-standard speaker layouts. If you have an unusual room that forces you to place speakers in weird locations, or if you're using an asymmetric setup because of furniture or architectural constraints, DTSX's fully object-based rendering adapts more gracefully than Atmos's bed plus objects approach. Atmos works best when you follow Dolby's recommended speaker layouts. 5.1.2 with 2 height speakers, 5.1.4 with 4 heights, 7.1.4 for larger systems. If you deviate significantly from these configurations, Atmos rendering can get confused about where to place objects. DTSX is more forgiving because it doesn't assume a standard layout, it just uses whatever speakers you tell it you have. That dialogue control feature is also genuinely useful for people who struggle with dialogue intelligibility. Being able to boost voices independently without affecting explosions and music is powerful, especially for older viewers or people with hearing issues. Atmos receivers have dialogue enhancement features, but they're not as precise or effective as DTSX's format-level control. However, these advantages only matter if you're in the specific situations where they apply. If you have a standard speaker layout in a normal room and you don't need special dialogue control, DTSX's technical advantages provide no real benefit over Atmos in everyday use. The future of three-dimensional audio. Looking forward, Dolby Atmos has already won the format war in any meaningful sense. Its market dominance, content library, and ecosystem support make it the de facto standard for three-dimensional audio. DTSX will likely continue to exist as an alternative on high-end physical media and in some niche applications, but it's not going to overtake Atmos in popularity or adoption. This doesn't mean DTSX is bad or obsolete. It's a capable format that sounds excellent when properly implemented. But consumer audio format battles are rarely decided by technical superiority. They're decided by ecosystem support, content availability, and ease of use. Atmos wins on all three counts. For consumers making purchasing decisions, the takeaway is simple. Make sure whatever soundbar or AV receiver you buy supports Dolby Atmos. DTSX support is a nice addition if it comes at no extra cost, but it shouldn't be a deciding factor. You're much better off spending your budget on better speakers, proper room treatment, or a higher quality Atmos-capable receiver than worrying about DTSX compatibility. The debate over whether Dolby Atmos or DTSX sounds better is ultimately the wrong question. In ideal conditions with excellent mixes, both formats are capable of delivering stunning three-dimensional audio that transforms your viewing experience. The technical differences exist. DTSX's higher bitrates and fully object-based rendering versus Atmos's efficient compression and hybrid approach, but these differences are subtle and heavily dependent on the specific mix, your equipment, and your room. What matters far more than codec choice is mix quality, speaker placement, room acoustics, and proper calibration. A great Atmos mix on a well-set-up system will beat a mediocre DTSX mix every time, and vice versa. The format is just the delivery mechanism. The content, equipment, and room determine what you actually hear. From a practical standpoint, Dolby Atmos is the format you need to prioritize because it's where the content is. Streaming services, gaming, and most physical media use Atmos. DTSX exists as a high-quality alternative for enthusiasts with extensive disc collections, but it's not essential for experiencing great three-dimensional audio at home. If this comparison helped you understand these competing formats and make smarter equipment choices, hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth audio analysis. Comment below and tell me whether you've noticed differences between Atmos and DTSX content, or if you think the whole debate is overblown. Let's have an honest conversation about what actually matters for great home theater sound. Thanks for watching and enjoy whichever format brings your movies and music to life.